This is the Hot Take Hockey Podcast with your hosts, Lucas and John Viveiros.
Let's wrap it.
All right, let's get rolling. So,
Lucas, you're up.
Yeah, here we go. So, happy Stanley Cup playoff eve to all our listeners out there. I'm super stoked. This is the best time of year, right? It's the best time of year for hockey. It's right around the corner. Tomorrow's the big day. We start the first round, and obviously the Leafs get going on Tuesday. So welcome to episode 33 of the Hot Take Hockey Podcast. We got another fantastic guest joining us today. If you spent any time inside Scotiabank Arena, you're very familiar with him. So, you know, for
Hype
any
man.
Leafs games, hype right here. We got Scotty Willats joining the show today to preview some Leafs Lightning and talk some hockey. What's going on, Scotty?
Oh, man, guys, I just want to say, take a chill pill. Going in for a long run. Not 2 weeks, not 4 weeks, not 6 weeks. We're going in for a couple months over here. I actually, Lucas and John, thanks for having me on the show.
Thank you for joining.
This is awesome, and I'm excited about this year. There's a different feeling about this team, doesn't it feel?
Absolutely.
There's something about Ryan O'Reilly bringing energy. There's something about Willie getting that 40th goal on Thursday night. There's something about Austin just flossing at the right time. There's something about Mitch Marner not getting that 100 points that he knew, he wanted. And there's something about Samsonov that I'm digging. So let's go.
Let's do it. Let's break it all down. So, you know, we can talk about the new additions. We can talk about the big stars. I mean, let's first talk about the new additions. I mean, Ryan O'Reilly specifically. I think it's a big piece that the Leafs added at the deadline. Probably the biggest piece in the Dubas era. Really adding him to solidify the center position, and we've seen him even on the second line with Tavares moving over to the wing. How do you see O'Reilly breaking, fitting best into this lineup for the Leafs in the first round?
That's the question, right? Do you want to put him with Tavares and Nylander and kind of make that like a glorified second unit, or even put Nylander or Marner with him on the second line and make that a glorified unit? That's everybody's kind of talking about that. I like him with Achari and also this Zach Aston-Reese has become this kind of, I don't know, unicorn that we didn't know that we had, and Achari and all that. So and obviously David Camp seems like a good line. I don't know. Where would you want to put him?
I like him in the third C for the most part. If I like the flexibility, but overall, I think it makes the Leafs so deep having him at 3C. I just think, against a team like Tampa, who's been known for their depth in years past, obviously a little weaker this year in terms of the bottom of their lineup, I think it presents such a problem for Tampa to match up against.
John, where you like him?
Yeah, I was also going to add, Scott, and I know you can speak on this big time, being the host in the building, being there every night. I feel like the control, and I've talked about this on the podcast, the control of the lines for Keefe on home ice. I just think the ability to put on a line, what you kind of just said, if you want to put Marner and Nylander with O'Reilly and Tavares, one of those guys, when those guys get the puck possession going and the cycling going for the offensive zone for a minute or two, you get Carlton, you get yourself, go Leafs go, you get the building hyped. Like, that shit's big in the playoffs. And I think obviously the Leafs have missed it for a couple of years. Last year, it was right there, right? It was one shot, one mistake. This year, I think they want to utilize that. So I was saying to Lucas, maybe when they're on the road in Amalie Arena, maybe you have O'Reilly as the third line center, so you never get caught on a shift. But when you're at Scotiabank Arena, Scott, you need the stacked lines out there controlling play so the fans can get into it, right?
I'll tell you what, it's called Scotty Bank Arena, because I'm gonna get that crowd going. No, I agree with you. No, like first game, second game, we got to just kind of go at them, and this is where I don't know where Bunting fits in.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of have this weird Bunting and 15, separation over there, and I don't know what you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I think Bunting is he's such an X factor. He has the potential to be a big X factor for the Leafs in the series. I think
you saw him swing at Corey Perry.
Oh, yeah.
We need that in the first.
We need that.
Yeah.
We need that. This is I feel like a Leaf team right now that has that bite to go up against Tampa in a different way than even last year. And Bunting's a huge part of that. I think he's got to be a difference maker in this series. So you got to play with the good players. You got to.
Not to interrupt, where does Kerfoot fit in?
I know that's tough. I feel like, and it just goes back to the conversation. So like Matty Nyes is in there now, and he was repping a gray sweater today as we record. So my thing is, Scott, and Lucas and I have talked about it a bunch, is like just the fit on this team. So you've kind of formed, and we've seen it recently, Lucas, like my opinion's even changed, like with Lafferty, for example. It's just the fit of the line and the fit of the team. Like Lafferty, Kampf, and Aston Reese have been such a, like, so I was in the building, Scott, for the Blue Jackets Leafs game, and that line was, I know it's the Jackets, but that line was buzzing. Aston Reese, Lafferty, and Kampf. So
he had two that game, right?
Yeah, Aston Reese had two that game. So like when I look at that game, and then I see how Lafferty played against Boston with the fight and the goal, I just like, I look at that line combo and I'm like, okay, so that's where I go, Lucas. Kerfoot or Nyes is like, it's the toss up for me, because I just think, Bunting, the fit is questionable, but I'll say this, if on the road, you get a line of, we talked about this, Lucas, Bunting, O'Reilly, and Achari as a shit disturber third line. Oh my God, that'd be a lot of fun.
Okay, I got another one for you. What? Say you put Wayne Simmons in first game, and he just Vasilevsky first game. That's it.
But
job done.
Suspended, and that's the end of his career.
So
my boy Wayne trade.
So the strap behind that, we basically saw that last year, and Clifford just absolutely just tracked over Colton. It was Colton, right? I think.
Yeah, kind
Lucas?
of.
Yeah.
I think it was Ross Colton.
I think so.
But anyways, Clifford comes in and just, like, if you go back on that shift, look at Clifford come through the neutral zone. It's like freaking eyes on it, man. Eyes on it. It's just, you could have got like a charging, anything. But that's, Scott, I'm with you. Playoff hockey, people will say whatever you want, but Tampa, they're a bunch of pests. They ride the line. Like, you watch Corey Perry and Patty Maroon for a shift. Like, those guys do some dirty shit.
Even Ross Colton, too. And Kucherov.
And Hagel. And Stamkos. And Coyne. They all do.
Kucherov is actually probably the dirtiest of them all. And
sneaky.
But it's
that
like
freaking Sluey on Brody.
Yeah, he's that's like the third slew foot he's done.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into that, but like, how do you control Braden Point is kind of the factor here.
Yeah, 50 goals, 51 goals for him.
Yeah, and jeez.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, I was also going to say, just on what you're saying about Point there and the goals. I actually, Lucas, I made a hot take today, and just talking to people, I was like, okay, so you look at the goal contributions from different guys, and Matthews obviously getting hot at the right time. It's like, okay, so how many goals are you expecting from Kucherov, Stammer, and Point in this series? Obviously, as a Leaf fan, you want to be optimistic that they're close to zero, but
I'd say 8.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Realistically, it might get closer to 10. Like, like above 5, 6, 7, 8, it might get closer to 10. So if you're looking at Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and again, Marner sometimes not scoring as much in the playoffs. Nylander,
JT, what about JT?
Yeah, so I'm getting the JT. Obviously, JT 5-on-5's got to get going here because he's been repping on the power play a lot. But Matthews, man, I made the hot take. If the Leafs need or want to win this series, Austin's got to put up 5 or 6 in this series. That was my take today. I was like, he's got to put 5 or 6 on the board.
Okay, that's literally
it's bold, but
I've been literally talking to my girl all day about this.
Yeah,
Austin will produce. Mitch will be Mitch, and remember, Mitch has to also do like penalty killing and all that stuff. Mitch is he's a 300.
He's a Swiss Army knife.
He's the Leafs. He's the Leafs engine.
Yeah, he does everything. 200 he does everything. JT is kind of the thing that I'm kind of wondering what he's going to bring, but he always brings something.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Every team that we know that we're going to approach has 3 good players. We have 4. Willie is our guy. He's our variable. So if Billy, not the sniping guy, my Swedish hero, my little One Direction hero comes and plays, then we'll be all right, because 40 goals is a big thing. And there's a long time since he was drafted by Nonis, and I think a lot of people have always been talking about him on the chopping block and be like, let's trade him, let's get rid of him. And I kept saying, are you guys nuts? Like, you don't know. He's the first one out there on practice. He's the last one to go. His shot is the second best to Austin's. Like, he is an unbelievable hockey player. His entry into the zone is 2nd or 4th in the league, and it's just, so let's let him go. And let him have his moment, because also in a year and a half he's going to be a free agent. So I think he knows it's money time too.
Yeah, and he's always sort of performed for the Leafs in the playoffs. At least in recent memory, he's been very
at least since
good.
the Montreal series, I'd say.
Yeah,
at least
so
for sure.
So I mean, I have no doubts that I think he's going to pot 3 or 4 goals. Come on, he can get 4.
Give us 5.
Give us 5.
Well, I was also going to add to that and say that I feel like Scott, just in terms of the dynamic of the team, and obviously we want all the guys to stick together. Like, Lucas, I've been saying this for years. Like, when you get so invested in a group and a team, like, you want these guys to win, and I've always said that. But yeah, I think it just goes back to Nylander being that kind of fourth guy on the list. It just by default, people kind of push him out, including myself at times. I've been,
which is funny because he was like the second guy. It's like Riley and then him and then rest, So like he's been here. He's done his time. He's earned his credits, and seeing him around the rink, I know that he's a guy that's committed to this team. He wants to win. He wants to show that he's just as good as 34 and 16, and he is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. One thing I see with Tampa this year that really makes me very optimistic for the Leafs this year is they're just not as deep. I know I alluded to it earlier, but they really have that top heavy mindset this year. They got Stamkos, Points, and Kucherov on that top line. Yeah. Right. And when you start looking, into the third and fourth line, I mean, fourth line, they obviously got that pest line of Bellemare, Perry, and Maroon. That one's still consistent from last year. But in that third line just doesn't look as strong right now. I know Tanner Jeannot's injured. Yeah. I think that's a huge edge for the Leafs when it comes to Achari, like we were talking about at the top of the show. Kampf, these guys. Kampf had a great game in Game 3 last year versus Tampa.
Kampf was a Vasilevsky killer, as we talked about with Omar, man.
He was unreal. Yeah. I mean, they're going to have to get some big goals like that. And really, when it comes down to it, and Tampa's saving grace is Vasilevsky. That's he's got to play better than he did last year. If he plays like how he did last year in that first round, I think the Leafs are going to have a few more goals than they did last year, and they should take care of them.
Yeah, he's not having a good year.
Yeah, so, by his standards.
By his standards.
Yeah.
By his standards. But he can always goalie you.
Yeah.
Always goalie you. And that's the scary thing about Vasilevsky. But here's the thing. How about Samsonov?
Yeah.
Maybe we goalie them. You know what I mean? I like 2 Russian goalies going against each other because we all know that Vasilevsky is the premier goalie in Russia. And I think Samsonov has something to prove. I think he knows that Matt Murray obviously is not coming back, and that this is his time to run with a title as a Russian goalie in a very hot hockey market and take down the king. And that's exactly what he would do. And also, Vasilevsky and their defense. I mean, Victor Hedman can't do it all. They're not the same team that they were last year. Their defense is not the same defense that they were last year. So I'm telling you, if it's anything like I remember Game 1, which was, boys, I'm going to be honest with you, one of the best environments I've ever seen at Scotiabank Arena. Game 1 last year at Scotiabank Arena against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I bet you we do it again on Tuesday.
I hope so, man. I hope so. Well, I'll say I was actually, Lucas, we won't talk about when you were in the building last year, but we'll talk about when I was, because it was positive. I was in the building for Game 5, and man, I think when the building gets rocking, and obviously, I mean that the building shifted when Riley scored and Nylander scored. But I was just gonna say that, especially with what you guys just said about the defense and the defense lacking for Tampa, the Leafers got to take advantage of Game 1 and 2. Like, I want to see the boys up 2-0. I think if Keefe can play the right matchups, especially at home, take advantage. As you just said, Scotiabank Arena, it's the boys and blues home. 2-0, man. It's got to be 2-0. If Tampa wants to try to take care of business in their home, good luck. But Toronto's got to control their home ice here.
Yeah, it does really feel like Game 1 is almost done. We're gonna win that. We're gonna win that one.
Wow. I love it, Scotty.
I'm not gonna win.
I love the energy, man.
It's a split. Like we're worried about the split.
Yeah.
I think every Leaf fan is just worried about the split, to go down to Tampa and do this whole thing again where we end up in 6 and 7. Boys, it's take care of business at home. 1, 2, split down there, come back home, 5, and let's go to Boston and let's.
I'm Lucas.
Another problem that we have.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Lucas, we're seeing a lot of now Leaf and 5 takes. I feel like last year was the whole conversation of, okay, we can't let it get to game 7. Leafs got to finish it in game 6. I think this year people are taking a step even forward now and just going, well, you have the advantage. You have a clear advantage. Tampa's looking, again, I'm knocking wood. I want to be so careful when I say Tampa's looking weaker, but
yeah, that's the worst thing to say. But also, I like what you're saying because they played a lot of hockey in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like a lot of hockey. If we get on them 2-0, and then it's 3-1 in the third period in the third game, I could see them just giving up, right?
I mean,
you played pretty much hockey all year for the last 3 years.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a ton of pressure on them, which could work to their advantage. But at the same time, like you said, Scott, if they're down, by a couple goals and they're beat, and it's game 6 or game 5 even, I can see them rolling over because this could age terribly. But I'm just saying that I could see them rolling over because there's nothing to be ashamed of with what they've done. I mean, this is an unbelievable run by this hockey team. They've been to the finals 3 years in a row. I mean, if they were to go out in any fashion to the Leafs, I don't think there's any shame in that for their perspective. The Leafs have the pressure. The Leafs have to get it done. But I'm very confident, like you, man. I got my chest out. I'm feeling good going into this first round, man.
No, John Cooper is a good coach. He's a great, actually, to be perfectly honest. And they've done a great job. Of course, Steven Stamkos, Toronto boy, awesome guy. They've done what they've done, but enough.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
It's time to hand it over.
So let's go. And I also really feel like the one thing I've learned about this season with the team is Austin kind of just played in the weeds while Connor's having the best season maybe of any NHL player's career. Obviously Gretzky and Mariano and stuff, and even past us having a year that nobody's talking about. But Austin's kind of having this weird year, and Mitch is still the best player on our team right now. So I got a weird feeling it's all going to come around, and John Tavares is always going to be there to just kind of be that focal point. I think it's a really good moment right now. Giordano and Morgan's had a bad year, but he's coming around. McCabe looks better. McCabe looks a lot better. I mean, after everything that they had to do with Muzzin, they had to rebuild. And maybe they can put that on their back and say, let's do this for Muzzin. And I think, wherever Samsonov takes us, we'll go.
Yeah. Two things I just wanted to add on that. One being, I think when you look at the roster, and again, I don't want to bring up negatives here, but once upon a time ago, about 2 years ago specifically, obviously the Leafs did something negative against Montreal and they were up at 1.31. My point in saying this is obviously the series didn't go well. Shanahan said something pretty specific at the post presser, end of season presser. He just said, we need killer instinct on this team. So 2 years now, and bringing up if the Leafs were in a position to be at 3-1, now you've brought in Ryan O'Reilly, you've brought in Nola Chari, you've brought in Luke Shen, you brought in these killer instinct guys that have, I just listed 2 guys that have cups. Achari's had a finals appearance. These are guys that know how to get to that point. So, built around those big guys. And I do also like the Tavares point. That was my only other thing I was going to add is JT, even when he was back with the Islanders and they were in the playoffs, it seems like he always wakes up near that game 5, 6, 7. And last year we saw it. Game 5, 2 points, the 2 goals in game 6, and almost in game 7, almost a pot in game 7. But I just think JT's the guy that I feel like he arrives at the right time. And I really hope, Scott, we see exactly what that overtime goal against the Panthers. I want to see more of that JT moment, rise to the sky kind of thing, Yeah,
there are a couple of moments that I always remember from Scotiabank Arena, and that is Austin scoring 60. As I mentioned to you guys, the first game last year in the playoffs against Tampa Bay, and when JT came home from New York, the Islanders, and he scored. Yeah, that was a moment.
Yeah.
First of all, not just him scoring the first goal, the fact that he came out and everybody stood up and got on and said, "Well, you're with your family now."
I got goosebumps, Scott. I was at that one.
You were at that one. You remember? You remember, right?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I almost got teary-eyed a little bit. That fact that we all kind of rallied around him because it was such a tough night the night before. Yeah, like a horrendous night that he shouldn't have endured. Anyways, the one thing about JT is you're always kind of like, he's slow, he's not doing anything, he's not producing, and then boom, 38 goals, like 100 points. He's always around. Like, he just gets it done.
The way people are talking, I know JT has gotten a lot of power play points this year, but Scott, the way people talk about like Tavares' lack of production, you wouldn't think he's a point per game. Folks, he was a point per game this year.
Point per game. That's exactly. He's always a point per game guy.
He's always, yeah.
And that's your what would you say? Your fourth leading scorer. You want him to be your fourth leading scorer because Willie's on the next level this year.
Yep.
And Mitch is taking it. And obviously, we know 34 is 34. 34 could be the best player in the world if he wants to be. So, yeah, I think there is a method of JT kind of managing the ship during this 7-game, whatever, however we go with Tampa Bay. He's got to just be like, hey, ship in once every 2 games.
Yeah. And
then let 34 do 34 and 16 does 16. And then as I keep saying, man, we have a variable with this Swedish guy. He's playing out of his like he's unbelievable. He should have been also.
He should have been. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because at one point he was on pace for what? 50 something goals?
We're talking about 50 something goals. Yeah. If Marner with his whole, I call him the engine of the Leafs, just all the things that he does on the ice, penalty kill wise, both special teams, everything that he does.
Oh, he's everything. He's everything.
He does everything.
Everywhere, everything. Yeah.
Everywhere, everything. If he, I would still lean that he's sort of the MVP of the Leafs this year just because of all the things that he does. But Nylander's right there with him, man, for in terms of the season that he had for the Leafs this year.
He's just like a sneaky, quiet player. And everyone goes like, oh, like I still hear people in the arena go, Nylander, back check. I'm like, did you not see him enter the zone 4 times in a row? Like, you guys, or him just collect the puck and make good passes on the power play. Like, I don't know. I just.
Well, Scott, I was just gonna say I'll add to that and just saying. So my brother's an absolute huge Willie fan, like favorite player by far, and he always gives me shit because like I'll own myself. Like I throw a couple of those comments here and there, and my brother's like, Willie is the classic example of like he does these amazing things and people have just gotten like kind of used to it. It's in a weird way. Yeah. And then when he kind of does that, like the same thing, but then makes a mistake along the way, it's easy just to shit on the guy because he does those amazing things in such a like nonchalant way, if that makes sense.
That's why I fucking tell people to take a fucking chill pill. It's good. And he's $7 million. He's a fucking deal over here. Yeah.
Unbelievable value on that deal, man. It's crazy how that deal's aged because we've talked about it numerous
people were
times.
ripping it at the beginning.
Yeah. Remember how much people were saying that is ridiculous. And now they're like, yeah, can we get him for $7 million?
Yeah. No.
No, you're not getting for $7 million again.
Scott,
go
ahead, John. Go ahead. You go ahead.
No, last thing I was just gonna say, and this is Lucas, this is you as well. It's just so if we do look at the series and looking at we talked a lot about the top players. Do you feel that there is a movement here where the boys have gotten mature enough and they're at the point where you kind of just said like hopefully Tampa? I mean, Stammer's getting older. Like, is there a transition period where they've gotten to that maturity point? Because I mean, hey, I know Tampa made it to a cup final with that core, and then they went through a couple rough years. But has this been enough, Scott, is what I'm trying to ask? Because Tampa went through it, right? Tampa went through the years of the maturity and with this core.
And I think that is the question. Because if you think about it, if we get up on Tampa, they might just wither off, right? and then we have to face the big beast. I think there is a chip on the shoulder. I feel a chip on the shoulder when I walk around them. That, hey, we're not these glorified rats. I think that's the rap they get around the league, is that they shouldn't be paid as much as they're paid. And I mean, look at it. 4 of our players are the top 10 top paid players in the league.
Yeah.
They want to know who they are. And I think there's a guy that wears 34 that wants to make sure that everybody knows that he's the best player in the world. And I think he's been watching a guy in the Western Conference take down beasts himself. And I think we're going to watch something maybe special. We just got to win the round, and then they will understand what Toronto is like when you win a playoff round in this city. They don't know that. They have never felt it. Once they feel it, trust me, they'll feel it.
And just winning for themselves, Scott. Like when they feel that, I'm sure when they feel that momentum, Lucas, and we've talked about it, man. Once that freaking monkey is off their back, oh my, especially 34. I can't even imagine what's going to happen.
Lucas, can you imagine we come back and it's 3-1 game 5 in Scotiabank Arena? That's a vibe right there. 3-1 game 5, Scotiabank Arena.
The Leafs didn't have the crowd against Montreal for that game 5. The crowd, there was no crowd. This time there's a crowd, folks.
And Galchenyuk, I still swear I've been reading Reddit. He cheated on us.
He sabotaged us.
He was always a hab.
Well, Scott, I do love the energy, man. We got to put the predictions on the line right now. All right. So I want to hear it from you. Say it to everybody out there. Leafs in how many games?
Leafs in 5. Leafs in 5 at my building.
There we go.
Leafs in 5. I believe that would be Monday night. Yeah. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Monday. Then
it will be Monday. It will be Monday because that's the one. Yeah. Actually, no. My bad. It might be the Wednesday. It might be the Wednesday because I think Monday's game 4.
Monday's game 4 jumps to Thursday for game 5.
There we go.
Saturday game 6. Monday, hopefully Monday doesn't exist.
Completely just bottled the schedule there. But yeah, you're right, John. It would be the Thursday. Okay. You know what? That's 2 guests in a row that we got Leafs in 5. I'm still going to I've said it last week. I'll say it again. I got Leafs in 6. Personally, I think they're going to get it done in Tampa this time. Might be similar to last year where they're in OT and we get a big goal our way this time. But I think it's John Tavares' time too to really show the fans that he's the captain of this team. He wants to grab it by the horns and really show it. And he had that moment in Game 7, and it's a shame it was taken away last year. But I think this year he's going to make good on it. Yeah,
I say Leafs in 5, Kerfoot with the winner.
Oh,
man, Scott, if that happens, you just know. I guess it would be Sportsnet is going to zoom in right on the biggest smile on Kyle Dubas's face.
No, it'll probably go to Justin Bieber.
Yeah, probably.
Oh man.
Awesome. I guess Lucas, if you had anything else, but
Scotty, it's been a dandy, man. I really appreciate you coming on. We got to get you back on. Maybe tee up round 2 if we get there. Cross our fingers. Knock on wood.
When we get there, Scott.
When we get there. But just make sure you take a chill pill. But keep bringing that energy, Scott, because honestly, man, you're killing it there. Yeah. I mean, you get me freaking hyped. I'm already hyped because the product, I love the product. I'm a huge Leafs fan. I've been a Leafs fan my whole life. But you really elevate that experience. So you keep that going, man, because you make SBA what it is in terms of that environment. So get us going this year.
Well, welcome to the first game of the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's your Toronto Maple Leafs versus the bad guys. Let's get going.
Let's go, Scott. Yeah, man. Honestly, whenever I see an action in the building, it gets me fired. So keep at it, man. And let's get the boy. Let's help the boys in blue blue and white to the next round.
Yeah, I'll try my best.
The real blue and white, eh?
The real blue and white. That's why I didn't even. Yeah, you know where I'm at.
That's another thing. Should we wear our black jerseys? Maybe game one. Just
that's a spicy one. We'll be chatting in a couple weeks.
Guys are family to me. We all bleed blue. Thank you for having me.
All right, Scotty.
There you go. Sorry, I lagged there for a sec, but appreciate it, Scott.
Take care, guys.